Hello guys, you're welcome to this tutorial series on creating a basic CRUD server using JavaScript and Java framework. So in the past series, we've been discussing on how to create a basic Express server using Node.js, where we have that created and we tested our endpoint. Should in case you skip that part of the tutorial series, you can check on the link below, and so you get to catch up with that. So now we'll be implementing the same CRUD API, creating a RESTful API using the Java framework. So for that, we'll be using Spring Boot. Now, if you want to create a Spring Boot application, you can just go ahead and go to start.springboot.io, where you can create a bootstrap template on your project. So you select some build tools you want to use for your project, you select the version and every one of that. So that's what we want to do basically right now, as to create a Spring Boot project. Now want to use Maven to build this project, so you select the Maven option here. You can choose the language you want to work with, Java, Kotlin, or Groovy. So we're working on Java, so we'll leave it on Java. So we have some Spring Boot version we want to work with. Currently we have version 2, 3, and all of that. So I advise you go with any of the latest version which you have here, and it's very important you don't choose the snapshot version, because it's still being reviewed and being developed. So you can go with the stable versions, which is currently version 3.1.3. And so the good thing is this will also work even if you try to continue this project on some other updated versions, so they have some backward compatibility. So next, you need to put in your group. This will make up your package name. You can leave it on the default com.example if you want to, or if you have some kind of domain which you want to work with, you can put that there. So let me put in my domain here. It's com.soft, and so that's my domain, and you can give it some artifacts. So I'll just want to call it basic. Let me call it basic CRUD, and then the name. Yeah, I want to give the name to us basic CRUD, and demo Spring project for, just give some kind of a basic description there for basic CRUD. And so for the package name, I'll just want to leave it on com.soft.basic CRUD. So you choose a packaging jar over, you can leave it on jar. Then the Java version here, you need to select the Java version which you have on your machine, and currently I have version 17 installed on my machine. If you don't have Java installed on your machine, JDK you need to install, you need to have that installed as well on your machine. Just go online and download the Java JDK, which comes with every of the Java JRE and every of those packages which you will need there, and you can check on my other tutorial on how to have that installed and set up on your system. So yeah, that is that, and we now need to add our basic dependencies, just like we made mention from the slide. We need to add basically 3 dependencies which we'll be working with, and you can add that right here. So we are creating a web project, so you need to search for the Spring Web dependency is what you have here. Just need to add that, and we also need to add in Hibernate JPA. Just search for Spring Data JPA, which is you can see that here, which is currently what we have here. And the last dependency we want to add is a H2 database. So yeah, so that is basically all the dependencies which we need. Now if you try to explore this project, that will show you a pom.xml file. Pom actually means project object model. So this is where you get to see most of the dependencies and most of those packages which you'll be working with in your project, which you added to that. So if you take a look at that here, you can see we have you can see what we added. We have the Spring Starter Web, we have the runtime, we have Spring Boot, and all of that. So these are the dependencies which we'll be needing basically, and and the Spring Starter Web kind of provide us some of an MVC structure, provide us with some container which we can run our web application on. By default, this gives us an Apache Tomcat which we can work with, and the database, the H2 database provides us some kind of in-memory data engine where we can work with process our data and all of that. And the Spring JPA, this is the Hibernate that stands in like a ORM, where we can, we don't need to write some of those raw query, some of those raw SQL queries for our data manipulation and all of that. So the Hibernate provides some kind of method that we can just go ahead and work with, and most of the SQL query language, we don't need to worry about that. So you can share this link with anybody who you want to have this Bootstrap boiler template, or that also works, and you can just go ahead and generate this will get downloaded. So wherever you have it in your file, and just open that up, and I have it in my download. So let me move that to my desktop, which is where we want to have it. So we'll have the zip file there, and we can go ahead and open it up and start our project. So this is it here, and I try to unzip that. So here we have it, basic crawl. Now we can open this up with any of ID of your choice. You can open that up with IntelliJ if you have one, if you want to open it with Eclipse, if you want to open it with VS Code, any IDE of your choice, you can just go ahead and open it up with that, and you have your project up and running. So for let me just open it with VS Code. So I drag it there, and I have my project here in VS Code, and we have the maven.m2 file here that was created. So this is where most of those dependencies, they kind of the Maven creates a kind of a folder which we have it in .m2 file, where we have most of our dependencies been installed and saved there on our file. And we have the src folder, we have the main and the test. So now the main contains our Java file, where we have all of our Java classes, all of our code will go in there, and our resources, where we have some kind of environmental file we want to put in there, or some kind of secret. We can have it here within our environmental our resources folder. And we have the test folder, where we can write our unit test and all of that. So the Bootstrap also added some git ignore files to us, where some of those files that we don't really need to push. If you want to push this to GitHub repository, wherever those secret file, you can ignore them there and have all of that. And then we have the pom.xml file and everything, all the dependencies we added, they are all in here. So if you check the main file, where we have our Java, and there's a file here which is basic CRUD application. So this is like the app file, or the base file, where our app is being mapped and bootstrapped to, and this is where we can start and run our server from. Just like we have the app.js file, index.js file in our previous Express file. This is the basic entrance file of our project. Now if you have Java JDK installed in your machine, so any IDE you run with, if you're following along with VS Code, or if you're using IntelliJ IDE or any of the IDE, you'll definitely see a run button on the top there if you're in the app file. So if you're on VS Code with me, you can just click on this run Java button, and that will start your Spring project. And currently, let me zoom my window a little bit. Let me increase my timing now. Okay, good. So we can see currently we have Spring Boot app started, and it's successfully started, though it's currently running on port 8080, and that is where our server is currently running on. But you can change this port onto your own. This is the default port that your Spring Boot web project actually start on, using the Apache Tomcat server. So it's currently started on that, and that is currently it. If you want to change the port, we will do that shortly. You can do that in the application resources file. And currently it's trying to load the database, and that wasn't successful because we haven't set that up yet. So quickly, let me just set up the our server, put in the database resource we want to connect to, and every of the needed information. So quickly, let's open the resources folder, which is what I have here. I will have the resources, and we have application, the property file. So here we can put in if we don't want to work with the default port it gave us, maybe you have a port of your choice you want to work with, so just put that here. I will call it server port, server.port, and let me just paste that, and then I'll save my file. And then so currently this is the port we want to work with. And then for our database setup, we have the database URL, and you can just put in this. Now this is we want to use JDBC H2 and the mem in memory, and then this is the name of the database we want to work with, testdb. And then want to have the H2 console, we'll update that to true, and then this DDL auto, we'll put it on update. So if we want to try to create some kind of table that's not there on our database, or some kind of entity, so this will get created if it's there. But if it's not there, it will be created. But if it's there, that will just be updated. That will just update the record we should have there. So that is basically it. Now if I go back to my application file, if I try to restart my server, let me go back to the basic Java file here. If I try to restart this, so our Spring Boot will start on the new port, and our database will also get connected. You can see that's simple as that. So if you can see here, we see our port is now on 4041, and we can see right here you can see our database also get connected, and everything is successfully initialized. So that is how basically we can bootstrap our projects with Java Spring Boot and have everything in place. So now the next thing we need to do is let's just create the basic folder structure, or you can call it the package of how we want our file to look like. Just we have it on the express part where we have our folder structures, and that's basically what we want to do. And in the Spring Boot, or we can call it the package. So let's have a controller package or folder. So we'll have a controller package. Next we want to have the let's call it service to the service package. And what else again? Next we want to have the entity package too, which is all the model. Let me call it entity. And the other package we want to have is I think that's basically it. We can also create the repository package. Repository package. And yeah, so that is basically it. And now within the controller package, let's just have a class there where we'll just send a message or a get message, so we'll get to see our server real quick on the browser. So here I just need to create a class. I click on that, and I can call it user controller class, user controller.java. So yeah, good. We have a class created, and this is a class controller file. So now this class is not just an ordinary class or a POJO. So this is actually a Spring Boot RESTful controller class. So we need to put this annotation tag there. So Spring Boot, we know how to call on this class. So we're going to call this as a REST controller. Call a REST controller. So we hit on that, and once I hit on the enter button, the package also gets imported for me here. Can you see that this is coming from web-bind annotation and controller and all of that? So we can also map this our class to any path if we want to, but let's just leave that aside, and let me just try to create a welcome message on our server, so we'll get to see that on our browser. So we can have get request mapping. So whenever you make a get request to this path, let's put it there to home, then we want to show the user just some kind of a message. So we can have a method that will do that. We'll have a public we'll have this class public this class return a string, let's call it home. The name of the method is home. It's taking in nothing, and so we just want to return a string here of welcome to server. And so yeah, that's basically it. That's all what we need from this method. Now once again, let us try and restart our server and go to that port address which we have there. Okay, our server is successfully started. Now let's go to our browser and try to go to the address http ://localhost, and our port is 4401/home. And yeah, so here we have it. Welcome to server. This is coming from a Spring Boot server which we just created and which is currently running. And that is how basically we can start a Spring Boot server, and how you can configure every of the necessary basic things which you need. And we're just gonna give it a pause here, and in the next video section we'll put in every of our functionality, every of our entity, our repository, and how we can make the CRUD operation on this server. Thank you very much for sticking around, and do see you in the next video section where we'll continue on the Express the Java Spring Boot basic CRUD API.